Sí, sí. Por favor. Just put it right there. Here we go. Back in Bold in Cali, Colombia. Had a cool little outdoor spot. Turn it around. I'm with Kyle. And you go by Professor Kyle on the social media. You've been around Latin America for a long time. 2015, right?
Yeah, this is 2015.
2015, he's an OG. Oh, we got some more snacks. See.
So this is the food.
This is the food?
Yeah.
Oh, this is the thing. What is this dish called?
So this is called ceviche de chicharrón. So like ceviche, but made with chicharrón, which is basically Colombian bacon, I guess you would say.
Okay.
So it's like cubes of pork belly,
See.
fried. And
It's famous in Cali.
yeah, actually it's funny because many Caleños don't really know that this exists, but I would say it's one of the best dishes from Cali. I like it. I've only had it once, but when I had it, it was fantastic. So we're going to have it again, see how good it is.
Yeah, let's take a bite then on the podcast. Look at this bad boy. Got a little kick. Come on. Sangria would be good too.
Yeah, Colombia is not really known for its food, so it's probably the most exotic thing you're going to have in Colombia that doesn't taste horrible or plain.
No, yeah, a lot of bland food. But I noticed too, they love to infuse other countries' dishes, and that's like a big thing. Like Mexican food in Colombia, Peruvian food. I see all the restaurants. Like they don't really have much, I'd say, pride in their own authentic cuisine.
They have a lot of pride.
Oh, they do.
They
So you can't say that.
They love their food, but people like outsiders don't really like it, and they get very offended when you don't like their food. Not really offended. Like I wouldn't say it's like Argentine pride where they're gonna yell at you or maybe even punch you because you don't like something from their country, but they do get their feelings hurt. So if you say bandeja paisa really isn't that fantastic, they'll get like a sad puppy face. Why don't you like it? It's like an English breakfast but Colombian style, so it's not really that exotic, but for them they like it.
Have you noticed that too? Like I spent a lot of time in Brazil. You spent over 3 years in Colombia. I think the cultures are very similar, but it's very childlike to me in a lot of aspects, which is funny because it's so violent in certain areas and so machismo, but a lot of their culture, it feels like, is super like innocent, cute, and they get like hurt really easy.
I think I know what you're saying. I think the big thing with Colombia is that they really haven't been open to the outside world for a long time. So I think my buddy Scotian, you were hoping to meet him today.
Sure.
But Scotian, he's been coming here basically since Colombia started opening up. That was in the beginning of the 2010s. Because it really wasn't until the aughts, so after Pablo Escobar, that Colombia cleaned things up a little bit and it became safe enough for foreigners to come. And I would say because Colombia didn't really have any contact with the outside world because of the violence, yeah, they're innocent. They don't really know what's going on in the outside world. So when it comes to food, for example, and you tell them food like isn't as good as Mexican or Peruvian food, they're a little bit, they don't really know what you're talking about because we said there are like Mexican restaurants and Peruvian restaurants here, but from my experience, they're pho, Mexican, Peruvian restaurants, the food isn't as good in those countries. So they kind of know what things are like in the outside world, but they don't know that much. Of course, there's many gringos like that we know that have never left Canada, the United States, and probably the same thing. So they're innocent, I would say, because they don't really know what's going on in the outside world, and that's what causes those interactions, those reactions that they have when you say that maybe their food isn't the most vibrant or colorful or delicious in Latin America.
2015 was your first time in Colombia, correct?
Yes, that was the first time.
Take another bite. You're hungry with that? I don't want to let it get cold. I get it. How much has it changed from 2015 to 2024?
There's a few things. I should probably finish this before I start.
Eat my hands.
There's a few small things. I would say in general, Colombia hasn't changed that much. I think the biggest change is I think the most notable change is that there's a lot more gringos. So when I first came here in 2015, there were a few, and I know a few of those guys. I'm not going to say that we were explorers or blazing trails or anything like that. It really wasn't that crazy. It's just that Colombia wasn't that well known, and yeah, most people from Canada, the United States, or even Europe were still stuck in their bubbles. So since then, I would just say the biggest change has been more gringos coming to Colombia. Small things. When I first came here in 2015, Colombians were still buying minutes off the street. So I don't know if you've ever seen that, but in lots of Latin American countries in the past, in order to get data for your phone or minutes to call, you'd go to the little corner and there'd be a grandma or an auntie selling minutes, and you'd give them a small bill and they dial your number and you get minutes for your SIM card. But yeah, that doesn't really exist anymore. That's disappeared over the last few years. But yeah, that's really the only thing I've seen change is that, and there's a lot more gringos in Colombia. Besides that, the culture's remained more or less the same, I would say.
What about development, safety, cost of living?
I would say safety is the same as it was before. Maybe a bit more dangerous for gringos right now. There's stories, of course, coming out in Medellin about gringos dying. But from what I've seen, it's just guys being stupid. So every time I see a story, of course, I get a little bit scared. I'm a gringo, you're a gringo, so you want to make sure that nothing's going to surprise you. So I read the story, but every time it's a 60-year-old man in Colombia for sex tourism and thinking that a 20-year-old girl actually loves him and she's got tattoos all over her body, and he gets too trustful and causes a bad situation. So, for example, the last 2 weeks there's been, I think, 6 gringos killed in Medellin, but every story that I've read has been that gringo making a really dumb mistake, just being too gullible, thinking that Colombia's a paradise. I think for old gringos that have been here in Colombia, you just got to realize that it can be fantastic, but you got to have your head on a swivel and you can't be doing stupid things.
Yeah, I think Latin America is all fun and roses until it's not. You know what I mean? All of a sudden, boom, it's hell on earth type atmosphere. Like, it could be the best time ever, everything's beautiful, and then you have a gun pointed to your head. Speaking of that, you had a gun pointed to your head, right?
Yeah. So I've been robbed 4 times in Colombia. Now, there are some really cocky gringos that still haven't been robbed in Colombia, and they drive me crazy because they say, "Oh yeah,
but I got robbed in Brazil."
Maybe him. But yeah, there's a few guys that tell me, "Oh, it's because you're doing something stupid. You deserved it." And that's what many Colombians will say, which drives you crazy, because just be walking down the street doing nothing and you get robbed, and they'll say, "Oh, well,
Papaya.
yeah, you gave papaya." Like, how did I get papaya? So yeah, it's funny because the last time I was robbed, actually they didn't rob anything. They wanted to rob us. But yeah, I got my calle, I got my street smarts now in Colombia. So I went out with my girlfriend to get a burger in the same neighborhood where she lives. So basically 1 block away from her house.
What strata? What?
It'd be strato 4. I mean, so it'd be 4th. So yeah, in Colombia there's the 6. I don't even know how to say it. Let's say castes. We're gonna say caste for now. So yeah, she lives in like upper middle class caste here in the city of Cali, where we're at right now. And yeah, we walked a block, 2 blocks to go get a burger in her neighborhood. Walking back home, 2 guys on motorbikes drove past us, and we both kind of looked at each other and thought, a little bit suspicious. We both kind of thought they could be robbers. Probably should have stopped, just went to the side and waited, because it did look very suspicious, but for whatever reason we decided to keep on going. We get to the corner. Basically her apartment building is, I don't know, 20 feet in front of us. And yeah, as soon as we turned the corner, 2 guys on motorbikes, the same guys, they had made a circle basically, waited for us to reach the corner. Basically came, corralled us into the corner against a wall, and yeah, the guy put a gun to my head, like, calm down, cell phones. But again, I've been robbed in Colombia 3 other times, so I know that when you're walking at night in Colombia, so this is, I guess, advice for anybody coming to Colombia. If you're walking at night, you try not to bring your cell phone. Try not to bring your cell phone. If you're gonna have a cell phone, try to have a burner phone, as many gringos will have. I don't have a burner phone, so I just don't go out with my phone. So I didn't have anything. My girlfriend didn't have anything. I told her, don't bring your cell phone. It's night in Colombia. It's like the purge. So just that's what I call it. It's like the purge. After 9 p.m., it's like the purge. If you're walking around, you're asking for it, more or less. So yeah, we didn't have anything. So they checked us, and my girlfriend though obviously speaks better Spanish than me. She's Colombian. So she said we don't have anything. So yeah, they were really pissed off. Like, see a tall gringo, white.
So they didn't get nothing.
Oh yeah, I didn't have money. I didn't have anything. So my girlfriend had like a gold necklace, kind of like I think what you have. But they checked it. I guess they thought it was fake gold or something. I don't even. It probably is fake gold. They're just like, and they left. But yeah, it sucks because like this guy was short guy, skinny guy, just a loser. And you think if he didn't have a gun in his hand, you would just beat the shit out of this guy. But yeah, you got a gun to your head, 2 of them, so there's not really anything you can do. So that's just an example. And of course, guys will say, oh, you were giving papaya, Gringos and Colombians, but I was in my laziest clothes. I didn't have a cell phone. I didn't have nothing. I was not giving any papaya. So in case you're one of those Gringos, you'd be like him. Thanks. I deserved it. I had nothing. I had nothing. So yeah.
And just like I said, at any moment it could turn in Latin America. So you have to have your wits about you. You have to be ready. I did a video on this. Like, you chalk it up to living here. You're gonna have amazing experiences. The cost of living is great. Whether it's the chicas, the good vibes, the beaches, and during your stay here, the longer you go, you're gonna have one of those times where you're gonna have to pay for it, right? You know, that's life. And I think you can evade it a lot if you're smart. You stay in good places and you're not stupid. But when the time comes, be mentally prepared for it. Okay? Hey, we gotta eat these. I think I'm taking you from that. So we'll eat it. We'll pause it.
They get soggy, yeah?
All right, buddy. So, a cumulative, how many years do you think you've spent in Latin America?
Let's say 5 years.
5 years, been to all the major countries. What keeps bringing you back to Colombia, and kind of compare and contrast the rest of Latin America as a whole?
I like this question. Yeah, because I've been to Mexico, Argentina, Colombia, and also I recently went to Brazil. I think Brazil and Colombia are very similar. I think the only thing that would keep me from Brazil is the time difference with what I do for my business is too great, so it's a little bit complicated. Yeah, just farther from where my family is. So I would say Colombia, the main reason I come back to Colombia is the people drive me crazy, but the people are also fantastic. So people are very friendly. They treat you, I don't want to say like a king, because then you get those Latinos or Gringos who say, oh, you just go to Colombia so you have slaves. No, it's just, they're curious. Colombians are very curious. They want to know about you. They ask questions. Of course, many times they are the same questions over and over again, but still they're curious. Whereas Mexico has better food, probably better infrastructure, more gringo amenities, I would say, so like Costco or I don't know, Walmart, for example. But I find Mexicans aren't really that curious about you and not as friendly as Colombians. So in a way, I come to Colombia because of the friendliness. And Argentina, Buenos Aires is one of the best cities in the world, I would say. But Argentines just have so many strange mental things, and it just drives me crazy. That I'm
Try to give examples of that.
This is a political example, and of course, if an Argentine finds this, it might be difficult for me to enter Argentina. But for example, the Malvinas Islands. Argentines honestly think that they're their islands. They need to go there. I don't know what their plan is. It's just thing that doesn't make any sense. All Argentines believe that the Falkland Islands are theirs, and that all the English that have lived there for, I don't know, 2 centuries should just go. And sometimes I'll ask Argentine, okay, so you guys are gonna take back the Malvinas, and what are you guys gonna do with the British? And they can't give me an answer. So for me, it just kind of seems genocidal. Like, just gonna conquer the Malvinas and just kill all the British people. They have so many, how would you call that? Very contradictory. There's many things that they contradict.
And they don't really consider themselves as Latin Americans, right? They think they're Europeans?
That's the thing. Like, some of them do, some of them don't. So it depends on who you talk to. It depends on how they grew up. It's just, I think the Argentine public school system did a really good job of indoctrinating them with nationalism and patriotism. Yeah, I guess. And I'm not going to... Probably there's benefits to that, but at the same time, you try to have a conversation with them, and your brain is just trying to figure out their logic. It's just, many things don't make sense in Argentina. So I love the city. I think there's many great things about Argentina. It's just, for me, like in Colombia things don't make sense, but they don't make sense, and it's supposed to not make sense. Whereas Argentines, it's like it's supposed to be logical, but it's not logical at all. So that just drives me even more crazy. I can handle the weird things in Colombia just because that's the way things are, but in Argentina, it's just, why do you guys behave like this? Why do you guys think like that? And it just kind of drives you crazy.
That's a good segment about the chaoticness of Latin America. So for me, yeah, I love it, like, but not all the time. And it seems like you go from here back to Canada to see family, but you like living in this for long term. You know, like me, it's by the end of my stays here, and this has been the longest one, like consistently over a year, has been, bro, like I'm like, this doesn't fucking make sense. Like, I need civilization. I need some stuff to work, you know, like, and to me, I need breaks for sure. But get into that chaoticness and how you've dealt with it, and maybe some explanations to why the hell things are the way they are here.
Yeah, I think dealing with it is probably the hardest thing for gringos that come to Latin America. I think I've gotten better at it. Even a few months ago, I would say if I were walking on the street, there'd be so many things where, like, that should be illegal, that should change, they should fix this, why are they behaving like this? Or there's one thing in the gym. Actually, another thing I like about Colombia, it has a gym culture. Mexico has no gym culture. Brazil has a gym culture. Argentina, a little bit, but Colombia has a very big gym culture. But one thing about the gym culture here, and an example of the chaoticness, is that they don't clean up after themselves. So they'll use the weights and they'll leave them where they use them. They won't return to the weight rack. So yeah, as a person from civilization, you're thinking, you're just watching these people and you're going, take back your fucking weights. Like, just take back your fucking, what are you doing? Like, wipe down your bench, take back the weights. So yeah, it's definitely very difficult. So I think the biggest thing with me is that I just try not to care. I think the biggest thing is, if you're a gringo, you got to realize that you're probably not going to change anything in Latin America. I do think if enough gringos come to Latin America, maybe we could cause change. Yeah, exactly. Like, many Latinos might not like it, but I think in Mexico City, Medellin, Buenos Aires, if there's enough gringos, that it might cause people to think a little bit differently, which isn't a bad thing. But you have to accept that you're not going to change anything and just go with the flow.
Why is it like this in Latin America? Why do you think? I mean, if we knew the answer, we'd be geniuses, because no one can figure this out. But, like, what is your hypothesis?
Magical realism. It's magical realism.
Colombian thing, right? Yeah.
Well, it's a lot, like, it originated in Colombia with Gabriel Garcia Marquez. But yeah, it's just, yeah, there really are no answers. Actually, there's a really interesting book written by an anthropologist 100 years ago about his travels through Latin America. And it's crazy reading this book, because everything he says it's the same shit. Like, it hasn't changed. So when Gabo talked about 100 years of solitude, it really is a cycle. Like, just Latin America never changes. It just, they always go in a circle. Things don't really change. Like, things do get better, but I guess the foundation of their culture never changes. So even though the foundation has flaws, those flaws are never fixed, because people just kind of accept them and you don't want to do anything about them. And yeah, it drives you crazy. Like, you could easily fix this, but they don't want to.
But I would argue the flaws are what makes you feel so alive in Latin America, where you can't really get that feeling anywhere else in the world.
Yeah, a lot of gringos talk about it. I'm not really in the stratosphere of a lot of other gringos in regards to finances. But yeah, one thing about Latin America is you can always find a way around things. So if you have a good lawyer, you can pretty much get around anything. So, like, I know a lot of gringos talk about taxes, avoiding taxes and all that stuff. And yeah, Latin America, if you get a good lawyer, then you can pretty much not pay taxes and just avoid the government in general. But yeah, you want to avoid the government because bureaucracy, banks, dealing with paperwork is just a nightmare in Latin America. So yeah, you want to avoid that stuff.
No, but I was talking about the chaoticness, like feeling alive. Yeah. The life, the salsa at Cali right now, like just the vibe overall. And you don't get that with quote-unquote civilization.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, I think you feel the same way, and I know other Greens feel the same way. They have to go back to our civilization every once in a while to kind of recharge the batteries. Yeah, because if you stay here all the time, you do kind of go crazy. What do they call it? Like jungle fever? Not jungle fever. No, there's another. Like what? I can't remember. There's a term that we have for it. But you stay in a place for so long, you start going crazy. Like in Apocalypse Now, that one sergeant goes in the jungle and just starts going crazy. So for me, I think many Gringos, a similar thing happens to them if they stay too long in Latin America, is that they can go crazy.
Because we grew up completely opposite, so we are ingrained certain ways, and when you're thrown in this kind of chaoticness, like it makes you feel alive, you're really excited, but then after a while you're like, holy crap, you know, like please just do this one thing, switch this. But again, if they did, then it wouldn't be as magical as a place, right? So Latinas. So I know you got a little Latina girlfriend here. Was that one of the main reasons you first came down here? Or tell me kind of about your history of dating in Latin America, and also what makes Latina so magical.
So my favorite topics.
Really? The professor, the nice guy professors?
My students know that I like the ladies, and my girlfriend knows about a little bit about my past, not all of it, but what can I say about Latinas? Latinas are magical. Maybe let's talk about my girlfriend, because that will help describe these things. And if she watches the video, then she'll feel very flattered. But like the main reason I'm with my girlfriend is, I'll give you an example. Colombians especially, not all Latinos, but Colombians especially, they love to dance. So one of the things that made me decide I like this girl, I want to spend more time with her, she wanted to go to a nightclub to dance. And I've been learning to dance for quite a few years. Ever since I came to Latin America, one of the first things I wanted to do was learn how to dance. Because for me, when you go to different cultures, every culture has strengths and weaknesses. So for me, why not take the strengths from the cultures to try to make yourself better? So one thing that Latinos have is they have music and dancing. They know how to move their bodies. So 2015, I went to Guadalajara. I took cumbia and salsa lessons, bachata lessons.
Why?
Well, one of the most beautiful things in the world is seeing a Latina smile. And Latina smiles the most when she is dancing. So you'll never see a bigger smile than when a Latina is dancing with a man that knows how to dance and that she loves and she adores. Yeah, that's the best explanation I have, is Latinas are so beautiful when they're dancing. So I want to learn how to dance to make those women happy.
No, so why did you have this idea from Canada and you said, I'm going to go to Guadalajara to learn salsa or whatever?
Oh, you want to know everything? Holy cow. So in Vancouver, I was in university, and my roommate, so my first serious girlfriend was Mexican, so that's how I got into Latin American culture, was because of her. After we broke up, and my next roommate was another Mexican, and he was from Guadalajara. So during that time between my breakup and going to Latin America, I told myself I was going to learn Spanish. So I did, and I met Latinas talking on language exchanges online. Now, of course, if somebody asked me if it's still possible to do it, I think it's still possible. I know many Gringos are still using language exchanges to meet women, but I don't think it's like it was 10 years ago when I was doing it. So yeah, I met a whole bunch of Latinas, but I told myself that I was going to go to Mexico to pay my respects to the Mexicans, because most of the Latinas I met were from Venezuela and Colombia, so I knew I wanted to go to Colombia. But I wanted to go to Mexico first, just because my roommate, he helped me through a difficult time in my life, and I also had connections to people in Mexico. So another thing about traveling Latin America, like this guy knows, if you have a social network, when you go to a place, it's much easier to enjoy the place, to see what the locals enjoy. So it's just a benefit. So if you have friends or locals and you know them and you're debating, like for example, maybe you want to go to Buenos Aires or Mexico City, but you have a whole bunch of friends in Mexico City, I would say go to Mexico City first, because you have those connections. They're going to help you orientate yourself, and you're going to assimilate much faster to Latin American culture. Whereas if you go to Buenos Aires and you know nobody, it's going to be so much harder. So that's the main reason I went to Guadalajara, is because my roommate, his father, his mom still lived there, so they offered me a place to stay. And then I had another girl that was living in Vancouver, and she had an architect friend building a boutique hotel in Puerto Vallarta. And they told me that I could stay for free in this boutique hotel in Puerto Vallarta. So it's really cool. I went to Puerto Vallarta for 1 week, then I went to Guadalajara for 3 months, and then I traveled through Mexico and Central America to see the Aztec and Mayan pyramids.
Beautiful.
And then I went to Colombia, and that's when my Colombian adventures started. It was in 2015 when I arrived, I believe in May or something like that, 2015.
Where'd you arrive?
First I went to Cartagena because I knew a girl there. So again, connections. So I went to Cartagena, met the girl, she showed me around for 2 weeks. Then I went to Bogota to take a teaching English as a foreign language course for 1 month. I love Bogota. Like ever since I went to Bogota, I love the city. I don't know why. Again, just don't ask me why. I like Bogota. Ever since I stepped foot in that city, you felt the danger. Like as soon as one thing about Bogota, as soon as you step off the airplane, if you don't feel danger, there's probably something wrong with your sixth sense. Yeah, as soon as I stepped off that plane, I had butterflies, my spidey senses were tingling, and I just knew, okay, this city, I gotta be careful. But at the same time, I always call Bogota the most beautiful, ugly city in the world, because it's beautiful, but there's a lot of ugliness in the city.
I like that street art though.
Yeah, the street art is nice, the mountains are nice, downtown is nice, but it's dangerous. The Chapinero area is really nice. So there's many nice parts, but there's also many ugly parts. So yeah, just head on the swivel. Yeah.
I took you off the topic though of the Latina. So the most beautiful thing in the world is a Latina dancing and smiling with a man she loves, right?
Yeah, for sure. What else can I say about that? Yeah, so with my girlfriend, I took her to the biggest gay nightclub in the world. It's called Teatron in Bogota. So many gringos know about it if they've been to Colombia. And yeah, when you say gay nightclub, if you're a straight man, they might think, I don't want to go to gay nightclub. But Teatron is an incredible experience. So if you can go, definitely go to Teatron. Colombia has a lot of these nightclubs where they have multiple levels. I think in the United States they have them too, but I find in Colombia,
Brazil too.
Yeah, Brazil too. So they'll have like 2 floors, 3 floors, and each room has different music. So I took my girlfriend there, and she danced with me the entire night. And I think that's the biggest thing that impressed me was that she just the entire night.
The first time you met? No.
First time we went, what did we do? No, first time we met, we went to a reggaeton concert, and that was also incredible.
This is in the relationship.
Yeah. That's another thing. If you have the opportunity to go to a salsa concert, a reggaeton concert, do it. Because Latinos in a concert, they're standing up the entire time, and they're screaming the entire time. They're dancing the entire time. So that was a good first experience with my girlfriend, going to a reggaeton concert. So yeah, but Teatron, that was like one of our, I don't know, maybe our 3rd time meeting up or 2nd time meeting
Colombia
up.
is not bad. For a basic beer, it's not bad.
So yeah, I took her to Teatron, and she wanted to dance the entire night. Like, no complaints. That's the other thing about Latinas, is that they do complain. We talked about that. But when it comes to going out and having fun, like Latinas, there's nobody that does it better than Latinas. They want to dance, they want to have fun, they want to smile, they want to make you happy. And yeah, with my girlfriend.
Point on that though, as in complaining, a lot of them too, even like the higher class ones, have suffered in life, or they've like been through crap, right? So when it comes to, going and having a blast at a shady place with the red chairs in Brazil, they'll make it the life of the party there. You know what I mean? So like, I think that's a great point about Latinas is they're not like a Slavic princess who says, no, I need a 5-star restaurant every time we meet. Like, they can be put up with a lot more, it seems, than other cultures because of a lot of what they've been through. You know what I mean? I'm not talking about dating favela girls. I'm talking, a majority of Latinas.
Yeah, there's a lot of this inequality in Latin America. So yeah, I hear that shit all the time on social media where they'll say, for guys like us, they'll say, oh, you're just dating poor girls from favelas. And
I got models in Milano, so I'm not in this group.
well, like,
Sí.
yeah, but people say that like haters online. I don't even know if they're haters. I'm not like famous or anything, but people say, oh, you go to Latin America just to date poor girls and take advantage of them. But no, like, you just date regular girls, and as long as you treat them nice, they're happy. Yeah, I have a little bit of experience with Slavic women. You have more, but yeah, like Slavic women, they kind of have these like high standards where if you're not paying this amount of money, then they're gonna find somebody else. And Latinas, in my experience, I know that those Latinas exist, but I've never gone out with those Latinas. There's a lot of just regular girls from regular homes that just want a man that respects them, and they'll do whatever you want. They'll do whatever it takes to make you happy, as long as you put a little bit of effort into the relationship.
Yeah, to go on that point of dudes saying, oh, Latin America is so easy and this and that, homie, you go down here and, okay, yeah, like your status and whatnot will be more, but there'll be a lot of girls from low class that a lot of dudes wouldn't even touch, and you'll be so happy to get with it, because obviously there's an obesity problem in the West, and obviously there's issues with dudes dating and whatnot, but like, you can't just come down here and date models, okay? It don't work like that. And most of the time, gringos get taken for way more than they take from other people, you know what I mean? Latinas are very cunning, okay? We say they're very nice and whatnot, but if you don't have some sort of game or some sort of frame, you're gonna get got easily, okay? That happens to a lot of gringos here, especially the dudes that comment like what you said, oh, I come down here and I'll date a model because I have $20 in my, pocket. Come on, bro. It ain't like that.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, I would say, and many gringos have said this, so if you haven't heard this before, just here's a reminder. The upper class girls, they date upper class Colombians, for example. And the lower class girls, yeah, who knows, maybe you could slay, but it's really hard to connect with them because they've grown up in an environment which is so separated from gringo culture. You have no topics in common, so your only option are going to be the gringo hunters. The girls that are hunting gringos, whether it's to scam them or because for whatever reason they have a fetish for foreigners. So you're going to be with girls that have been run through many times. So yeah, if you want to date regular girls, yeah, more than likely if you come here, you're a regular guy, you're a normal guy, you're not a little bit crazy, you don't have a screw loose in your head, then more than likely you're going to be dating incredible, normal, middle-class girls. The upper-class girls aren't going to mess with you because probably going to be leaving in a few weeks to go somewhere else, and the lower-class girls, well, they have no way to communicate with you because they have no cultural reference for conversations. So yeah.
Yeah, I think the bottom line is the Latinas are amazing. They come with problems just like everyone does. There's pros and cons, but I think a romantic relationship with a Brazilian, a Colombian, it's a must-have, in a dude's life, because it'll change, I think, how you love and feel. Like in Brazil, bro, like it really brought out I grew up in the Midwest, I got like Canadian type blood from Minnesota, and you're more. I saw a funny meme about a relationship between Minnesota people, like no PDA, like very basic, and the Latino will bring out all of it, all your emotions inside of you, and it's a great experience for dudes to understand.
Yeah, if you're gonna be with Latina, you gotta, you don't want to be a simp, you don't want to be overboard, but yeah, you really have to express yourself. She wants all your loving tenderness. If you hide that from her, she's gonna get pissed off, and yeah, maybe she'll like you for a few weeks or a few months, but then she's probably gonna kick your ass to the curb, because a Latina that doesn't have affection it's like a flower not getting water. It's gonna die eventually.
Okay, let's switch topics big time. So you're from Canada, you love Latin America. Where do you see kind of the future of this nomadic life or these countries that we frequent compared to where we're from? Like, are your friends back home worried that Canada's going down the shitter? Are you thinking you're going to set up a shop in Colombia? The whole idea about the West falling and the developing world is where you got to be.
It's so complicated that I really don't want to pretend I'm an expert. But I would say, from my own opinion, I find a lot of people in those countries don't really realize what's going on. Like, my father realizes a little bit, but at the same time, I don't think he would ever leave North America. I think a lot of gringos just would never leave North America because they like being in their situation, in their bubble. They like feeling comfortable, and obviously going to another country, you have to adapt to the culture a little bit. I don't want to be one of those guys that says you have to go full Latino, because I think that's stupid too. But yeah, you have to be able to adapt to the culture, and many gringos aren't willing to do that. So for somebody like me, somebody like yourself, I think we're able to do it. We're able to live in other countries. But I would think a majority of people, you've seen that throughout history, very rarely people leave their home unless it's a genocide and they're being forced from their land. So I don't really see anybody of course, many people are gonna say, "Oh, we're being invaded by Latinos or Asians or whatever," and demographics are definitely changing. But at the same time, there's so much space in North America. From my point of view, I just think there's gonna be downfall. Things are gonna get worse, but at the same time, yeah, like the Roman, not the Roman Republic, the Roman Empire, it just slowly goes down the shitter. But people don't really know us. They just say, "Oh shit, things are getting worse," and people adapt. People always adapt. So I think one thing I notice right now with Gringos is I find them very entitled, and I find they think they're still on top of the world, and I don't think they're realizing
The rest of the world,
the rest of the world is catching up, and things are changing. So it's gonna be a slap to the face. People are gonna have to be humble. Like for me, I'm humble. I think you're humble already. Like things are gonna change, but I think there's a lot of people in Canada, United States, who think they're a developed country and everybody wants to be them, and they don't realize that that's slowly changing. And yeah, it's gonna be slap in the face.
I talked with your boy about that, Hami, Jamie, I call him. We discussed about how, when he was younger, I would love to live in the USA, and it'd be great for opportunity. And now, and I've discussed this a lot. I think since TikTok, people have seen the everyday life of American that gets amplified, the craziness, and a lot of people like him said, "I don't want to live in the USA. I'll go visit, and maybe if I got an opportunity to make money online or go there for a little bit, I'll take it." But our reputation as Americans, I assume Canadians too, is it's not like when we grew up, we're like, everyone wants to come here. This is the best place on earth. A lot of people in different parts of the world are talking shit. And I push back on it. I say, look, you're not going to say this to my fucking face. You're from a third world place, in quotes. Yes, I love this part of your culture. And yes, we have this issues there. But let's not act like we're not amazing opportunity in the USA, right? But it's fact that a lot of Americans still think that we're in the 90s, in the golden age of nobody can touch us. It's the best place ever. And it's not true. From Asia, obviously Europe to South America, people tell me, no, I don't really want to live in the USA. And it's if you had told me that 10 years ago, I'd be like, that's crazy, right?
I don't have much else to add. Just, yeah, things are changing.
But hold on. So let's relate to the people that can relate to us. So why the hell did you take the jump, besides your Mexican girlfriend, this and that, to be solo, go in a foreign land by yourself? Obviously you tick different because you left your homeland. Unlike 99% of people, you weren't forced out. You did it. Why? Either you ran away from something or you're trying to find something. It's usually the two reasons.
Yeah. I'm a good boy, so I'm not a criminal. I like freedom. So I think my main reasons, urban design and architecture is a big thing for me. I don't like car culture, and car culture is dominant in Canada and the United States. So that's the same thing in Latin America. I like many aspects of Brazil, but one thing I don't like about Brazil, which makes it difficult to think about living in Brazil, is that they're a bit more car-centric than other Latin American countries. Maybe it's because they're richer, and maybe other countries... Yeah. But, for example, he was asking me about Curitiba. Curitiba, very nice, but it's not a green city like they claim it is. It felt like a Canadian city, but in southern Brazil. So
Floripa's hard to walk around.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't really like car cultures that much. So that was a big thing for me. I had no dream. Whenever I thought about my future, I never thought, in 10 years I want to have a car and be commuting to work for 30 minutes to get there. That's 30 minutes. That's a short commute. A long commute would be 1 hour. So I had no desire to do that. And of course, there are nice parts in Vancouver, Toronto, Montreal, if you live downtown, but right now
Yeah, hold up on the side. Just hold up on the side, yeah.
But for example, a big problem right now in Canada are real estate prices. So for a young guy, even if you want to live in the nice part, you're going to have to be paying most of your paycheck for rent. And
we're talking 50-70%, no?
Yeah, in Canada? Well, for Vancouver, Toronto, if you want a 2-bedroom apartment, I saw it today, I think it's 3,000 Canadian dollars, which would be $2,500 US dollars, which, yeah, it's a lot of your paycheck. So I didn't want to be paying that much money, and then you'd be surrounded by I'm just gonna say people that I don't really want to be surrounded by. I think people watching this are gonna know what I'm talking about, but like,
Not Canadians?
Well, yeah.
Canadians.
No, people that you don't want to be surrounded by. So, and I've always liked other cultures. When I was a teenager, I learned Swedish, and I like learning languages. Yeah, I speak Swedish.
Oh, Swedish, yeah.
Swedish, yeah.
Skål.
Let's go.
Tack.
Yeah. Tack så mycket. So yeah, I've always liked getting to know other cultures. So it wasn't a big leap for me. And then another thing is freedom. I've always wanted freedom. I've never dreamt about having a 9-to-5 job. So right now I'm teaching English at my own institute, and I don't make a lot of money. I want to make a lot more money, but at the same time, the most important thing for me is freedom, and that's what I have. So I would say those are the two biggest reasons. Just I didn't want to live in a car-centric culture, and I wanted my freedom. So I got it. I got it right now.
Good answer, but hold on. Were you an outcast? Did you have a good social circle? Were you like a dork, a nerd? That's usually the nomads I meet, and I have a hard time relating to them because I grew up a jock, right? You know, the high school quarterback, I had my friend circles, I had a good life, but I was addicted to adventure. I was addicted to, you know, outside the comfort zone. Like, and I'm never really like, I'm either going to be the leader or by myself. I don't want to follow nothing. I don't want to, you know, I think it was a natural evolution for me doing as much as I could in Minnesota and be like, I need more. And I instead of going to New York or LA, you know, I said, fuck it, let's go around the world. And so that's why the nomadic people I meet are usually, like I just said, outcast, nerdy, crazy, and didn't have a life back home. Was that you or no?
No, I'm very introverted. So I know the people you're referring to, and I think I could have ended up like one of those dorky, introverted people. But, like, for example, have you ever taken the Myers-Briggs personality test? I'm an INTJ, so I'm one of the most introverted people that exists. If you think it's bullshit, if you don't, I took it a few... Like,
that's so funny because this dude posts 100 million videos on socials, right? It's always the introverted, like really in-person people that are the biggest social media people. It's crazy.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, maybe. I think your Instagram has a lot more... your personal Instagram has more photos than mine. But, like, I keep my private life private. I don't like to share everything I do in my private life. But yeah, I'm very introverted. So I think you're correct in that... I wouldn't say I was an outcast. When in high school, middle school, elementary school, university, I was always in the middle. I was never the cool kid. I was never the dork. I never fit in anywhere, and I don't think I'm ever going to fit in completely anywhere. So like, I like meeting people like you, and I like meeting people that just go with the flow. They're open to people with different personalities. So I'm not extroverted at all. So like being with this guy, he's loud. He's definitely a typical extrovert. Yeah, he likes adventure. I like adventure too, but for example, he has no problems just being boisterous and saying dumb things in like half Gringo English, half Spanish. And for me, that would obviously make me very shy, very timid. So I like adventure, but I get those butterflies in my stomach, and I think maybe he does too, but he's probably just more like, fuck it, let's do it. And for me, I'm thinking a lot more. So yeah, going back to why I came here, maybe I'm an outcast, but at the same time, not because people didn't like me, just because I didn't really like them, but not like in a bad way. Just I was kind of bored and I just wanted more. So that'd be my. I'm an outcast because I decided to be an outcast, not because they decided I was an outcast.
Yeah, you're not a fucking crazy guy. You know what I mean? You're just kind of searching for more, maybe trying to find yourself. Yeah. And let me ask you that: did you find yourself on the road and kind of dive into that aspect of being alone in different places and figuring out, oh wow, I didn't like this. I only act like I like it because the group I was with in Canada liked it. You know, I actually enjoy doing this and finding your own self and identity and independence.
Actually, it's kind of funny because I had never been to the party group. So I know what you're referring to. Like maybe back home I had friends doing drugs or drinking every weekend. And I remember in high school I had those friends that on Monday they would come to school and they say, oh man, I puked so much on Saturday night. Maybe that was you.
I was an athlete. I'm a good boy. I was a good boy.
So for me, it's just like, it seems so stupid. Like you drank yourself silly and then you puked, and that was the highlight of your weekend. So no, I've always been very independent. I've always been, again, if you know anything about MBTI, INTJ is very future oriented. So I was always thinking about the future. So I just always thought those things were silly. But yeah, being by myself, I realized when I was younger, I was maybe a little bit, what do you call that, presumptuous. I felt like I was better than other people because, I don't do these things. They're so stupid, but I'm smarter than them. And I think by traveling, I realized, traveling also entrepreneurship. So watching, I haven't followed him for a long time, but watching a guy like him, he's an extrovert, just goes for things. I'm pretty sure I'm really in my head. He's a bit more outside of his head. And watching him have success or other extroverts have success, it humbles you and makes you realize, okay, maybe I'm not stupid, but at the same time, I'm not that smart. Traveling and also watching, having my own business and being involved in entrepreneurship has humbled me a lot and just made me realize, take it easy, enjoy life a bit more. I think that's the biggest change I've had is enjoy life more. So I don't drink a lot, but for example, you invited me to drink last weekend, and I was like, yeah, fuck it, I don't care.
And the cigar.
Yeah. So I've started smoking cigars, and the big reason is just because I'm not trying to be perfect anymore. I would like to have a few, one or two vices, and so cigar, it's gonna be my vice. And in a way, I'm tired of my old me that was very trying to be a perfectionist, and nowadays I'm really trying to be.
When you were traveling Latin America, you were being perfectionist?
In my head. Obviously when you travel, you can't be perfectionist, but
chaotic, especially in Latin America.
Yeah, so of course the chaoticness of Latin America humbles you a lot as well. So I would say that's the biggest change from traveling, and also just being involved in the online entrepreneurship world sphere is humbling yourself, and some guys are gonna have success, other guys aren't gonna have success. Just gotta roll with the punches. I think that's the biggest thing that's changed with me.
The richest people, most successful people in any avenue that I've met have been quote unquote the dumbest. But when I say that, they're actually really smart because they just do shit. You know what I mean? And then the chips fall where they fall, and they learn from it. They go boom, boom, boom. It's always the dudes that are making $50,000, $60,000 a year at a 9-to-5 job that read this book and that book and question, oh, Joe Rogan's a meathead. Motherfucker, Joe Rogan's got millions of people that listen to him every other day. So obviously he's doing something. You think he's stupid, but who are you, right? And I think that is a big key to any sort of fulfilling life for sure, and success is just do. People get so, like you said, lost in your head, and that stops everyone. All the artistic, creative people get stopped because they're afraid that Joe Schmo over here, who sits in their car in traffic to Minneapolis for 45 minutes, has a fat Minnesota girlfriend, gives a fuck, you know what I mean? That is a huge lesson I think I've learned, and traveling definitely pushes that out of you, where it's what really matters, what doesn't. I obviously try to be a good person, but just do and see what happens. Don't end up in the emergency room like me, but, have fun.
Yeah, you gotta take care of yourself. But yeah, I think that's more of a personal journey. I think it probably would have happened if I went to Latin America or not, but who knows? So I'm definitely very happy that I came to Latin America, and yeah, like you said, I think it's the biggest thing I'm trying to take from extroverts is extroverts just do. And of course my strength is thinking a lot, but at the same time, I'm trying to get better at just do it. Just do it. That's all I gotta say about that.
Yeah, you've been quite successful from what I've seen. I've talked a little more about your business model and your traveling, so it's not like you're on a wrong path. You've been doing really well. So I wouldn't just go on the completely opposite end and end up on the streets like a crazy gringo, But okay, hey, to wrap this thing up, we have got a lot of good content. I want to talk about, if you're open to it, we can cut this if you don't want it in there, is we were walking around the mall, so I spilt wine in his pants. So I said, fuck it, I'm going to give him, a new pair of pants. But while we were walking in there, we started talking about, the old forums of dudes that would travel. And it's kind of migrated to Twitter now, social media. But we're talking about the Roosh, Naughty Nomad, who I had on the podcast, really good dude. Bald and Bankrupt originated here. All these, characters that you see now that are having success overseas were in these places, right? I wasn't. I read websites, but I never posted on no forum. You know what I mean? But Bold and Determined, Victor Pride was great. Roosh, we're talking about Kraus, Tom Torero, who I love, rest in peace. He committed suicide a couple years ago, sadly. I learned so much from his podcast. Everyone should check that out. It's not necessarily just for dating, but I think life. He has a lot of good information based on his Evo Psych background. He studied underneath Richard Dawkins at Oxford. So really, really smart dude. But tell me about like this old world and all these people, like they're still out there, or they made a way, you know, traveling and living.
So I told him today that I have one friend here. His name's Scotian. That's his nickname. That was his nickname on the forum, so I just call him Scotian. I don't even know his real name, actually, if you ask. I don't know. I just call him Scotian. So anyways, if you know anything about the Rouge forum and you were researching about going to Colombia, for example, you probably know who Scotian is. He was the most prolific data sheet writer on the forum. So yeah, just a lot of the guys that he's met, I don't know as much about this as him, but they've all told him that they came from the Rouge forum. So I think a lot of guys try to hide this because they're starting legitimate businesses, and I think they believe that they're going to get canceled if people discover that they were part of these forums. But I really love those forums because they gave you a ton of good information. They helped keep you safe, because obviously going to Latin America back then wasn't a cakewalk. It's still not a cakewalk, but there's a lot more information that you can find. So by going to those forums, basically, when I was planning to go to Mexico and Colombia, I was able to find, okay, which nightclubs are popular for dancing, which neighborhoods are good for staying at, what are the women like, what are the men like. You were able to learn so much and plan out your trip so that when you got to those places, you were able to hit the ground running and not be lost. So that's the biggest thing that I miss about
As a single man. So these forums were for dating. Rouge had bang this country, bang that country. He got canceled. We're talking about the pickup artist places back in the day, right? But it was deeper stuff to it, right? They had more about, it was like before the whole masculinity wave and the Andrew Tates. This was kind of like hidden red pill area, right?
Like for me, it was just men trying to help other men. And there could have been dark sides to it. I think that's the biggest reason they want to cancel, or that's the biggest reason they give for canceling these guys, is because they find a few examples of maybe dark opinions. But for the most part, it was just single guys trying to help out other single guys. And yeah, guys that wanted to travel and see the rest of the world and enjoy at the same time. So in a way, that's why I don't have problems talking about, because it was hugely influential for me. Those guys, if they're watching this, thank you very much for everything that you wrote, because it helped me out a lot. And in a way, I try to pay it forward by giving Latinos and Gringos information nowadays on Twitter, on social media. And yeah, it was just, in a way, I miss it. I wish it still existed. I don't think it can really exist in today's environment. It was a product of the environment in the early 2010s, with the culture change and then just the internet getting more widespread. And yeah, a whole bunch of guys just found corners of the internet to exchange information, and it was incredibly helpful for everybody, for young guys. So for me, I wasn't really writing anything in the forums because I wasn't traveling at the time. But yeah, when I was planning my trips, I was going to those forums trying to figure out how to go about traveling, enjoying myself, and staying safe.
Yeah, but what I found fascinating is you kept naming names and names of dudes that have nothing to do with like dating anymore, but have a different business or a setup in this location. And it's like it's amazing how many people came from there. Like, it was every dude that has a name for himself in the travel world is from these forums.
Well, yeah, because the biggest thing was that we realized that we could go to these countries and live very well, but at the same time, if you want to live well, you got to be making gringo dollars. So that's the big thing, is a lot of these guys, they realized if they can make gringo dollars, but live in Latin America, for example, that they could live a very, very good lifestyle. So for a lot of us, we started out just wanting to meet women and travel, but then we realized, okay, I don't want to be poor and travel. And the other thing too is that even in Latin America, if you want to date women which are higher class, then of course you gotta try to make more money and get access to more high class venues. And if you're
a hippie backpacker making like $500 a month, then yeah, you can live here. It is possible, but it's definitely a challenge. So I think a lot of those guys, they tasted the lifestyle first. In my case, I saved up a whole bunch of money in 2015 working in Vancouver, and I came to Latin America, and I wasn't really thinking about money, and I realized, wow, this is a fantastic lifestyle. I got to figure out a way to basically support myself so I can live in a good neighborhood in Latin America and have a good lifestyle. So I think all the guys that I know of, that was their inspiration. They came to Latin America, they liked it, and then they tried to figure out how can I make money so that I can keep on living like this.
I really think lots of the whole digital nomad blow up in the last, well, for sure during COVID, but even like right before that, it started getting hot on YouTube. A lot of that came from these forums. And like guys like you're talking about who are like, how do I keep this same lifestyle earning gringo dollars online? And so a lot of the digital nomads have the Rooshes, the naughty nomads, the PUA bad boys to thank for it.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, I know a lot of guys try to hide like this background to try to stay more legitimate, and I understand it, but yeah, I'm just very thankful. I would not be where I'm at right now in my life, like here in Colombia, if it weren't for those pioneers. I mean, I'm gonna call them pioneers that came here before me to try to get all the information and share it with other curious young men like myself when I was 23, 24 years old.
Hey, I think last thing, I'm gonna use this as a clip or put it somewhere else in it. I want you to go over cost of living then, now, and then where in Latin America the budget situation. So in Buenos Aires right now, $2,000 a month. I'm living really good. In Cali, what do I need? Just overall cost of living is always good for clicks and whatnot.
All right. So I'm just going to be completely honest with you guys. I'm not a rich gringo. So yeah, so my budget right now is probably around $1,500 a month, which isn't a lot. Of course, I want to make more money, but again, I got my freedom and I'm still trying to figure out ways to increase my income. So yeah, I guess...
That's relatable to a lot of people.
Yeah. So young guys starting out, I'm going to tell you basically where I can live and be comfortable. Right now I'm in Cali. Cali's probably the cheapest city in Colombia, big city in Colombia where you can live.
Really?
Yeah, for sure. So...
What about Barranquilla or whatever, no?
So Barranquilla, yeah, it's a big city too. Yeah, I'd say Barranquilla and Cali would be the two big cities that you can live comfortably in Colombia if you have a small budget. Bogota as well. Like Bogota is probably I say Buenos Aires and Bogota, if you're looking for bang for your buck, would be the two best cities for a young guy starting out that wants a big city, like a capital city. The entire country revolves around it, then Bogota and Buenos Aires. I think Mexico City in the past, but of course nowadays it's not very easy. Buenos Aires in the past year has gone crazy, but of course if you're going to be living outside of Palermo, outside of Recoleta, then I think it's completely possible to still take advantage of the economic situation in Buenos Aires.
No way, Sao Paulo, no way.
Yeah, like I think if I was making more money, I love Rio. I would probably be in Rio, but I definitely need a bigger budget to stay there more long term. So yeah, I would say if you're looking for the best bang for your buck and you don't have a huge budget like myself, me personally, my choices would be Buenos Aires, Bogota. Yeah, those would be my top two choices. But yeah, other cities in Colombia would be choices. So Cali, for me, Cali's too hot. So if you're Canadian or from like northern United States, then I would say Cali, Barranquilla would be way too hot for you. It's just right now we're outside, it's nighttime, but even for me, it's still a little bit hot. So that's why Bogota is perfect if you're more from a northern climate. But if you're more from a southern climate in the United States, like Florida, for example, then I would say Cali's not a big deal. Barranquilla is not a big deal for you. So those would be my choices. Cost of living, like I said, I can live comfortably in Cali, making $1,500 a month. And I still go out on the weekends, enjoy myself, and live a normal life more or less. Obviously, you can't be going out every single day if you have my budget, but if you're just doing 2-3 times a week going out, then yeah, you can live very comfortably. Okay, so right now at the Airbnb I'm staying at, I'm paying about $500-$600 a month. It's a studio. It's a nice studio, but it's not one of those like really cramped Airbnb. Area safer, not as safe as like where he's staying.
Not for a fresh off gringo.
Yeah, for a fresh off the boat gringo, maybe. Obviously, most of the fresh off the boat gringos, they go to this neighborhood. But I would say don't go there because the criminals here are targeting those fresh off the boat gringos. So I would say, for example, Cali want to be Granada or Peñon, or yeah, those would be the two best neighborhoods for you. So yeah, there's certain neighborhoods which are gonna be better for you. So right now, about $500, $600 a month. Of course, I would prefer to be in a nicer place, but yeah, at the same time, I'm not living in a shithole either. Food, I don't know. I think I'm paying about $80 a week. I'm a skinny guy.
Cooking or wrap?
I'm cooking. I'm cooking, and I get Rappi like 2 times a week, I would say.
Food delivery.
Yeah, food delivery. So yeah, I would say $80, $100 a week on food. Transportation, Uber's here. Yeah, of course, it's depending on where you're going, but very cheap. Like I would say between $1 to $5 to go places within the city. I don't know what else can I say.
For 30 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. So, anything else?
Oh yeah, okay. So $1,500 now, but you've been doing this since 2015. I mean, how has it increased a lot, or you've still stayed around that budget the whole time? I mean, were you going like 700 back in the day, or what?
So yeah, well, when I first started teaching English, I was teaching at universities. So I was making like volunteer wage, which was, I believe, like $600. Yes. Which was about $600 a month. Yeah.
Is that better, that 600 then than 1,500 now?
I know. Prices have increased, of course, in Colombia, but like not so much where it's like, oh my goodness, I need to make a whole bunch more money. I teach English. Probably not the best idea for a business, but maybe you know Ed Lattimore. He had a.
Oh, was he a boxer?
Yeah, he's a boxer, and he was big a few years ago. I think he's still big, but not as prolific. But yeah, he just had a tweet that said, if somebody pays you money for your services, then it's probably a good business idea and go for it. So I was getting Latinos paying me for teaching English off of my social media videos. So I said, well, I'm gonna stop thinking. I'm not gonna overthink this. I'm just gonna say, okay, fuck it. This is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna teach English. So yeah, I've been teaching English since 2018 by myself. But yeah, no, it's not easy. Right now, I am doing, like for example, I'm learning to program. Just right now, there's a lot of English teachers coming onto social media. Like when I first started out, there was very few English teachers, and now everybody wants to be an English teacher. And so
I thought it's been saturated for a while now.
But it's even more saturated now. When I was starting out, it wasn't that bad.
In Asia, it was really saturated.
Okay, saturated, yeah.
So Latin America wasn't.
Latin America wasn't as saturated, but now it's getting really saturated. So yeah, I would say I've been like on a plateau since the pandemic. During the pandemic, obviously, everybody wanted to learn online. So I had like a big increase.
Where were you? Mexico?
I was in Canada for 2 years, yeah. And it's been going down, and now I'm like at a plateau.
Oh, I got you a question. Mr. Freedom, are you vaccinated? Canadians got the vax.
No. Yeah, so I guess another reason I came to Latin America, it's this interesting story for Canadians or for Americans who are interested in this, is, yeah, basically Mexico opened up in 2021. AMLO said...
2020. It was open.
Okay. So, anyways, know it all here. So, AMLO opened up Mexico, and Trudeau was saying, we're going to close down the borders. If you're, you can't travel if you're not vaccinated. So basically, I took the decision. I don't know how long Trudeau's going to close the borders for unvaccinated, and I wasn't going to get vaccinated at all. So if I stayed in Canada and he closed the borders permanently, then I was stuck in Canada, and I didn't want to be in Canada. So AMLO opened up Mexico. So I went to Mexico, and yeah, end of story. And then Colombia opened up, so I went to Colombia. They had lots of masks on the street. I didn't really like it that much. Then I heard that Argentina was opened up more or less, and they were wearing masks less. So then I went to Argentina. And then after about 6 months in Argentina, the rest of Latin America said, screw it, no more masks. And yeah, so I'm not vaccinated. That was a big reason for coming to Latin America in 2021, was to avoid the Trudeau restrictions.
I'll tell you what. Normally I don't like Canadians when they travel, but you're pretty nice. I think I told you this last time. He's a different kind of Canadian, especially because I spent a lot of time in Playa del Carmen during that pandemic. And there's so many angry, hate life Canadians there. I've been there forever, the expats. Now I'm really curious. So you've been surviving and thriving in Latin America off $1,500 max a month. Because nowadays everyone says that's impossible. I did that kind of in Floripa during the pandemic, so I heard it's changed. Yeah, but I mean, now, I'm spending 3,000, 3,500 a month, and I'm doing what the fuck I want. I usually have nice places, and so tell me, how are you doing the $1,500 a month? Like, doing plane tickets, like help the tips out for people that, because not a fresh out the boat gringo can do that. Like, you got to know your way around. Okay, I go to this SIM card store to get my data. Give some tips for dudes that want to do budget traveling, right now.
I guess one big advantage I have is that I speak Spanish. So obviously, if you want to avoid getting screwed over, knowing Spanish is very important. Like today, he went to buy some pads,
God, yeah, tell me.
and obviously he doesn't speak Spanish, but yeah, they wanted to discount his pants, and yeah, a little bit suspicious. They kept on, he just wanted to buy pants, but they kept on saying, "Oh, but we'll give you a discount if you get this belt." And he said he looked
polo too,
and then it was a polo first, and he said nah, and there's a belt, and he's like nah. They kept on like adding his product. So even for me, I was thinking, why are they doing this? But yeah, because I spoke Spanish, I was able to clarify things, and yeah, it was very strange, but they weren't trying to do anything wrong. They just wanted to give us a discount for whatever reason. But yeah, so knowing Spanish will definitely help you out a lot. It'll, how do you say that, ingratiate you with the locals. So they'll try to get you better deals. They'll try to protect you. They won't screw you over as much. Like, for example, when I was living in Cartagena, the taxi drivers are always trying to screw you over. So I knew Spanish, and I knew from the forums that the first thing you should do is, hey, taxi driver, how much to go to here? They give you a price. If you like it, you get in. If you don't like it, then you stay outside the car. But you never enter the taxi before you get the price.
Europe too.
Yeah. But yeah, so I wish I could give you guys tips, but I think the biggest thing is going to be rent. It's going to be your biggest cost. So my tips for Airbnb then would be, you always want to be renting for 1 week at least so you get the discounts. And but I would say find a city that you're interested in, stay for a week. If you like it, stay for another week, and then during that second week, look for Airbnbs for 1 month so you get an even bigger discount.
No. Say Renta. Go walk on the street, look at Say Renta and WhatsApp every single
No. So yeah, if you want the really big deals, know Spanish or Portuguese if you're going to Brazil, and find the signs that say, rent. And then, write those numbers, contact them through WhatsApp, and you can find good deals there. I don't really do it that often. Actually, no, I've never done it. I have tried it once before, but I just do Airbnbs for convenience, and I'm not so poor that I need to be doing that. But yeah, if you really, really want the best deal possible, know Spanish or Portuguese, and find the signs that say, alquilar, se renta, whatever it is, departamento, and call those numbers. And those will probably be your best deals.
Oh, let me make a point in this. So I don't speak, I speak very little of Spanish and Portuguese, and I'm rarely gringo price, because I tell them, no gringo price, and I'm not afraid to not make a scene, but no, I'm not paying for this shit, I'm not gonna be the guy that says, oh, no, you owe me $1 more or 10 reais, right? But if you don't put up with it, you usually can be fine. If you're just gringo throwing money around, you're gonna get screwed. But we're talking about the Say Renta. That's how I live super cheap in Floripa, because I had a place on the beach, and I was paying $390 a month, getting breakfast made every day, my laundry done a couple times a week, and it was clean. That normally that'd be $1,000 a month, because I saw it was a hostel on top, and they had private rooms on the bottom, your bathroom, all that kind of shit. And I said, hey, do you have bookings there? What would you charge me for one of those private rooms? They said, and I did Google Translate, and then I later found one of the hostel ladies could speak English. She's like, oh, 500. And I said, okay, I'll do 350. No, 400. And then it ended at $390 with all the perks in there, right? So even if you don't speak the language, Google Translate and knowing how to make deals will save you big time. But again, you need to, this isn't convenient, right? So I had a 1 month Airbnb in the Centro. I went around the island. I found Bar da Lagoa. I liked it. I was walking around and I started talking to people, right? So that's a part that you have to put yourself out there, but it's so doable. Nowadays, when I spend on these Airbnbs, I know I can get them for half the price if I talk to the person in person, or you do 1 week and then you say hey, in person, I'll give you cash, because cash is king, right? Like, give me if it's not the rest of this month, next month I'll pay in cash and and for half the price. And they usually do it. So it helps the Spanish to Portuguese, but it's totally doable with Google Translate and you knowing how to negotiate.
I think because you talk about Floripa, so that's another thing that you can do is, again, if you're thinking long term, like planning a year, try to plan your year during low seasons. So, for example, I went to Floripa too, but I went after Carnival. So basically after the high season.
So expensive there.
Yeah. So in Floripa, if you go December, January, or February, it's incredibly expensive because all the Argentines, Uruguayans, and Brazilians are in Floripa. But March, there's nobody there. So I went to Floripa in May and June, and it was incredibly cheap. So you can also just try to plan your trips so you're going in low seasons. Whether it's, like, for example, I'm in Cali. Cali really has only one high season, that's December, during their Feria de Cali. But besides that, it's low season. But yeah, if you just do some research, figure out when that high season is for tourists in a place, then you can...
Simple Google search.
Yeah. Again, like, people don't know how to use Google. I don't really know why, but Latinos and Gringos, they're a bit lazy. So yeah, use Google, figure out when the high season is, and try to go during the low season. You'll get better service at restaurants as well. I was in Floripa during low season, and I had a good relationship with the guys at the Brazilian buffet. So yeah, it's just another good idea. Go during low season. And yeah, actually another good city I didn't mention is Curitiba. I'm not a big fan of Curitiba, but if you want high quality of life and like a gringo style city, then Curitiba is definitely a good choice. Curitiba is one of the cheapest cities in Latin America. So I was probably the same price as here. I would say like $500, $600 a month in like one of the best neighborhoods in Curitiba. So Curitiba is definitely a good option. I find it a bit boring of a city. It's definitely very gringo style, but yeah, if you're looking for a first place that's not dangerous, you can handle it, not that much danger, then I would definitely say Curitiba.
So here's what I was going to say, but this is not a fresh off the boat gringo. Brazil, there is 30 cities with 1 million plus people that some gringo, maybe 10 gringos have visited in their fucking life. Like, there is so much to see in Brazil besides Rio, Floripa, Sao Paulo, and you can live very, very good for very, very cheap if you do the tips we're talking about, but you're going out like a pioneer in the frontier. There would be weeks, months on end, I wouldn't see a gringo in João Pessoa, the capital of Paraíba, 1 million people, one of the best beach cities in all of Brazil for quality of life. All the Rio people, all the Sao Paulo people are moving there now. Campina Grande and João Pessoa are like the two cities everyone's moving to, and I would never see gringos, right? So if you're not experienced traveling, that's very hard to do, but there's 30, 40 more cities in Brazil like that where you can live amazing for $1,500 a month, and but there's no gringos. So Brazil is definitely the most untouched Latin America place because it's...
Yeah, maybe Bolivia, but very few gringos want to go to Bolivia. So yeah, there's other countries that may be more untouched than Brazil, but still, like, why would you want to go there? So I would say of the big countries of Mexico, Colombia, Argentina, and Brazil, yeah, Brazil is the most untouched. And incredible culture. I would definitely want to go back to Brazil.
All right, hey, to finish this up, it's been beautiful. A lot of great content. Give me 5, that may be too much, 3 or 5 reasons someone should come to Latin America, why you love it, etc.
It's going to depend on the country. So it kind of depends. So I guess in general terms, come for the atmosphere, come for the lifestyle, come to be a little bit more relaxed, come to not worry so much about the 9 to 5, about keeping up with the Joneses.
Politics.
Yeah, definitely.
Klaus Schwab.
Yeah, politics. So yeah, I don't really have a top 5. Those are just some random things that I would say you'll be able to avoid politics. You'll be able to avoid there's dumb protests in Latin America. Yeah, so I can't say that. But you're gonna avoid a lot of all the dumb gringo shit. You're gonna be able to avoid if you come to Latin America. The culture is fantastic, but keep your head on a swivel. Depending on the country, there's awesome food. Colombia is not that place, but Argentina has awesome food. Mexico has awesome food. I think Brazil, it kind of depends on where you are. Yeah, I think it's kind of like Colombia, but yeah. So I would say each country has its pros and cons, so it kind of depends on where you're going. Like, I'm in Colombia, so quickly for Colombia, I say come to Colombia if you love music, you love dancing, you love happiness, you'll love Colombia. I think Brazil is very similar to Colombia, so the same reasons. Argentina more if you want a very European style city in Buenos Aires. And I guess if you like white girls, then Argentina. And Mexico if you want food.
A lot of white girls in Brazil.
Yeah, if you go south of Brazil, lots of white girls for sure. I think even in Joa Pessoa, there's lots of white girls. So yeah, those are just some of my reasons.
To feel alive. That's why you come to Latin America. Professor Kyle, it's a beautiful time. Skol. Skol. Everyone else, live bold.